In 1945, when World War II was still going on, the Soviet Union started developing an ambitious 10-year program for its Navy buildup. The key ship in the program was the Project 82 heavy cruiser, whose development was personally supervised by Joseph Stalin. This cruiser was to become a symbol of the country's might, a calling card for a superpower.
The first ship of this type joined the Soviet Navy when the USSR bought German heavy cruiser Admiral Hipper class, which was still under construction. The primary goal of the purchase was to learn advanced foreign technologies and then build an indigenous ship. However, the project was soon put on hold once the war began. The work on a Soviet heavy cruiser was resumed after the end of World War II. New operational requirements were put together. The Navy's Shipbuilding Research Institute and the Shipbuilding Ministry's Central Design Bureau made numerous preliminary variants of the Project 82. As a result, two versions with different armor thicknesses were submitted to the government for consideration. In March 1948, the disputes were resolved personally by the Soviet leader, who approved the most powerful variant. Later on, Stalin regularly supervised the design and construction process for these ships. His comments and suggestions were viewed as orders and immediately reflected in design specifications. In terms of her design, the Project 82 outmatched any heavy cruiser in the world. Length, 897 feet 8 inches. Beam, 105 feet. Draft, over 30 feet. Total displacement, 42,300 tons. Primary armament, 9 12-inch guns mounted in 3 SM-31 turrets. Dual-purpose artillery, 6 BL-109A twin turrets, caliber 5.1 inches. Anti-aircraft artillery, 6 quadruple 1.8-inch SM-20 ZIF autocannons, and 10 quadruple 1-inch BL-120 autocannons. Armor, main armor belt, 7.1 inches. Total thickness of 3 armored decks, 5.7 inches. Main turrets, from 4.9 to 9.8 inches. Coning tower, 10.2 inches. Anti-torpedo protection consisted of 4 lengthwise bulkheads. In addition, it was the first time that Russian shipbuilders implemented 3-layer armor protection for the bottom. As a result, the hull was to sustain an explosion of 500 kilograms of TNT. Power plant, 12 boilers and 4 geared turbines producing 280,000 horsepower. Estimated speed, 35.2 knots. Cruising range, 5,000 miles at 18 knots. Crew, 1,712 people. The Americans, who had similar Alaska-class ships, distinguished them as a separate class called large cruisers, but they appeared quite modest compared to the Soviet project. When the prominent Soviet naval commander, Admiral Kuznetsov, was appointed naval minister in 1951, he asked his subordinates, "What's the idea behind this ship?" The head of the main directorate for shipbuilding answered, "Comrade Stalin said this ship, due to her speed, should force the enemy to fight at a certain range."
Naval Minister Nikolai Kuznetsov believed the Project 82 was not worth the funds spent on her construction. But according to the Admiral's memoirs, Stalin had a special passion for heavy cruisers, which was hard to explain. Enormous design and production resources were dedicated to the ship's development. The first cruiser was laid down in Nikolaev on December 31, 1951. She was named Stalingrad.
In line with the spirit of that era, the Nikolaev Black Sea Shipyard, then Plant Number 444, named after Andrei Marty, undertook an obligation to launch Stalingrad, before the anniversary of the October Revolution in 1953. With this enthusiasm, 2 more cruisers of the same class were laid down in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, and Molotovsk, now Severodvinsk. They were to be commissioned in 1954 to 1955. The scale of research and development work performed by heavy cruiser Stalingrad in the difficult post-war time and under extremely tight terms is comparable to the creation of the first satellite. From the beginning of 1951, design documentation for the Project 82 was being handed over to numerous plants all over the country, each manufacturing armament, mechanisms, or equipment for the ship. Thus, the Barikady Company in the city of Stalingrad, now Volgograd, produced main battery guns featuring the world's best ballistics, and the Leningrad metal plant made turrets for them. Turbine manufacturers in Kharkov and Kaluga supplied the cruiser with the world's most powerful power plant. A similar one was built by the United States for its Kitty Hawk-class carriers, only in the 1960s. By spring 1953, the manufacturers had produced all weapons, ship systems, devices, the power plant, and other technical aids. The cruiser's hull was on stock, 70% assembled. However, in March, Stalin passed away. The very next month, the Soviet government issued a decree to cease work on Project 82. The new weapons and systems that had been developed were then used in other projects. Though Stalingrad was never completed, the process of designing and building the world's only and last heavy artillery ship to be laid down after World War II demonstrated the Soviet Union's high potential in science and technology. Consequently, this project allowed the nation to achieve a new goal of a greater scale, establishing the world's second-largest combat-capable nuclear missile ocean fleet.
In the mid-1950s, the incomplete hull of heavy cruiser Stalingrad was converted into a floating target. During the firing exercises, the hull sustained multiple hits and stayed afloat even without any damaged control assets aboard. This proved the superb survivability and combat potential of this ship, which wasn't fortunate enough to ever join the ranks.